Welcome back. We are going through our worksheet of the coffee roaster manufacturing facility. In the last video, we did the overview where we figured out our product costs in each of the three stages: raw materials, WIP, and finished goods. Today, we are going to go through the first of our 5 periods. All right, so let me move that. Okay, so assumptions have not changed, but down here under where it says period 1, this tells us some information we need to know about what happened this period. So first of all, it says beginning inventory is 0. So I'm just going to put 0 all the way across in raw materials, work in process, and finished goods. So the assumption here is that this is the first period we've ever been in business. We just signed the lease, we flipped on the lights, and we're getting ready to go. So we don't have anything setting in beginning inventory because, of course, beginning inventory is last period's ending inventory. So if there's no last period, there's no last period's ending inventory. All right. Then it says we purchase 100 pounds of coffee. All right. So we know from our assumptions that one batch is 10 pounds. So I'm going to take my 100 pounds of coffee we purchased and divide it by 10 pounds per batch. And that tells me I bought 10 batches. Now I know from my overview page that one batch of raw materials is $100. So I'm going to say 10 batches times $100. I now have $1,000 of coffee sitting in my raw materials. These are my raw materials available for use. So we'll go ahead and do a little summon. Copy. Paste. Okay. So I've got $1,000 sitting in raw materials. With that $1,000, it can either stay in raw materials as ending inventory, or I may put some of it into production. And in fact, it tells me my raw materials ending inventory is 20 pounds. Okay, so I'm going to take my 20 pounds divided by 10 pounds per batch. So I know I've got 2 batches left in raw materials, and each raw material batch is $100. So I know I've got $200 sitting in ending inventory that did not get put into production. Okay. So if there's only $200 worth sitting there, only 2 batches sitting in ending inventory, then I must have used the other 8. 10 minus 2 is 8. So 10 minus 2 is 8 batches, and $800 must have gone into production. If I wanted to test that, I would take the 8 batches we have here, multiply it by the $100 raw materials cost per batch, and that would give me the $800. Okay, so that's my raw materials. Now, the first thing I'm going to do when I go to WIP is I'm going to transfer my raw materials that got used in production up to this line right here. So 8 batches and $800 were transferred to production, okay? Whatever is here goes here. All right, now I know I add direct labor at the beginning of the process, all of it, because I am fast like the flash. Okay, so if I brought 8 batches of materials into the process, then I applied direct labor immediately to all 8 of those batches. Now, my direct labor, let me go over here, my direct labor per batch is $50. So I'm going to multiply my 8 batches times $50. And I have applied $400, or I've added $400 of direct labor to my production costs in WIP. All righty. So now the next clue it gives me is my WIP ending inventory is 3 batches. All righty. I'm going to put that in here, see where that gets me. 3. Now I know from my overview page that my cost per batch in WIP beginning inventory and WIP ending inventory is $150 because it includes my direct materials and my direct labor. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to apply my 3 batches times $150. All right. So now I need to figure out how much factory overhead did I apply? Now, if you remember, we apply factory overhead at the end of the process. That means everything we apply factory overhead to becomes cost of goods manufactured and gets transferred to finished goods. So I had beginning inventory of 0 and I added 8 batches. That means in total, I could have finished 8 batches, but I didn't because I have 3 batches in ending inventory, which means there were 3 of those 8 batches that I did not finish. So 8 minus 3 means I must have finished 5 batches. Okay, so if I finished 5 batches, then I must have applied factory overhead to 5 batches. And I know from my overview page that I apply factory overhead at a rate of $75 per batch. So my 5 batches times $75 per batch. So I applied a factory overhead of $375. Okay, so my total manufacturing costs, I'm going to sum this up. I'm going to include beginning inventory, which is 0, but I'm going to include it in my formula just so I don't forget to include it later, plus direct materials, plus labor, plus factory overhead. So the total manufacturing cost I have injected onto my manufacturing floor, into my WIP, this period is $1,575. Okay, so if I take those manufacturing costs of $1,575 and I subtract my something has gone awry. So if I take my total manufacturing costs and I subtract my ending inventory, I end up with total cost of goods manufactured of $1,125. That is the costs that relate to the goods I finished, and I'm going to transfer over to finished goods. Now I'm going to check my number. I'm going to check my number by going to my overview page, and I know that one finished batch should cost me $225. So if I go here and I say, well, I know I finished 5 batches times $225 a batch, $11.25. Okay, so my numbers match, and this is how I'm using that overview page to check my work. All right, now these total cost of goods manufactured got transferred to finished goods. So before I do anything else, I'm going to transfer those costs because I know that's where they went. Okay, I have 0 beginning inventory, so my cost of goods available for sale is equal to the total cost of goods manufactured. Then it tells me we sold 50 pounds of coffee. Okay, so we sold 50 pounds. I know we have 10 pounds per batch, so 50 pounds divided by 10 tells me we sold 5 batches. Again, going to my overview page, I know one batch cost us $225 to make. So I'm going to multiply my $5 or my 5 batches times $225. It's $11.25. Now, the total amount that I could have sold was 5 batches and $1,125. And that's in fact exactly what I sold, which tells me that there was nothing left in ending inventory. So ending inventory is 0. Okay? All right. Before we leave period 1, we need to do our financial statements. So we're going to go up here. First, we want to calculate our total inventory. Remember, our total inventory at the beginning or at the end of the period is raw materials ending inventory plus WIP ending inventory plus finished goods ending inventory. So I can very easily say my raw materials ending inventory is $200. My WIP ending inventory is $450, and my finished goods ending inventory is 0. So the total inventory that I am going to report on my balance sheet this period is $650. Okay. Then my sales. So I sold 5 batches. Okay. So to calculate my sales, I sold 5 batches. I know there are 10 pounds per batch. So 5 batches times 10 pounds per batch times $40 a pound is my sales price. So my sales dollars were $2,000. 5 batches times 10 pounds per batch times $40 per pound. My cost of goods sold, I'm just going to take right from here, and then my gross profit is my sales minus my cost of goods sold, $875. And then to get my gross margin or gross profit percentage, I'm going to take my gross profit, divide it by my sales, and I'm going to come out with 43.75%. If I go back to my overview page, that is the margin I was expecting. So that gives me a good idea that I have done this correct. Okay, that finishes up period 1. Stick with me, we're going to do period 2, and then after that I'm going to send you off to work on this on your own, or feel free to form groups and you guys could get together in your own groups. All right, but now I'm going to say adios.